put your hands together on the offbeat. Give me that, oh, come on, time, religion. Give me that, gotta sing. Time, religion, give me that, time, religion. It's good enough. Do it again. Makes me love everybody. Makes me love everybody. Makes me love everybody. Makes me love everybody. And it's good enough. Again. Oh, give me that whole time religion. Give me that whole time religion. Give me that whole time religion. And it's good enough for me. So of course it says Bibles together. You all know that one here?
Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Monroe County Memories. I'm Elizabeth Brandis, the director for the Monroe County Historical Society Museum. The museum is located at the corners of 6th and Washington Street and is open and free to the public. Our hours are Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 4 and Sundays from 1 to 4. Today's episode of Monroe County Memories will be focusing on oral histories. The project you'll be seeing today was created in conjunction with the Monroe County United Ministries, was produced by Judy Hetrick, and we owe special thanks to the Indiana Heritage Research Grant. The museum is proud to present the Monroe County United Ministries Oral History Project. See you at the museum.
Monroe County United Ministries started in the late 1930s as an idea shared by a few people. They believed children in need in the Bloomington area could best be helped by a coalition of people from many different faiths. So an ecumenical group of church women and other leaders from throughout the community worked to start the agency as the Bloomington Day Nursery. One of the founders, Alice Moore, was interviewed in 1994 about her memories of United Ministries' birth.
I went to in 1937, the Episcopal Church had a convention, they call it a triennial, in Cincinnati, and a group of us Episcopalian women went down, and the whole theme was on church unity. And I didn't think the Episcopal Church had been very active in church unity, and I was very much for it. So we came back, and it happened that the president of the Council of Church Women was moving to Wichita, Kansas with her minister husband, and I was first vice president, so I happened to be the head of that, and I got interested in doing something locally, and I started a group of 10 study groups on church unity, and as a member of one of them, I was asked to go to the Baptist church and give a talk, and while I was waiting there, I got to talking to the Reverend W. Douglas Ray, who was a Baptist minister, and we found that we wanted to do the same things for Bloomington, that we felt there was a need here. And he was a very remarkable person and a very good manager and planner. And through his activities, we got the council started. At his suggestion, I called a meeting along with Ella Purcell, a member of the Presbyterian Church, who was head of the council. And we invited women from various churches. I think there were 10 from each church that came and presented the program of having a Christian center. And there was a lot of opposition to it. And I called up Mr. Ray that night, and I said, well, it just isn't going to work. They're all against it. He said, no, don't say that. We're going to go ahead. And being a sort of person he was, he did get things started. And various prominent people in Bloomington, men and women, were called into this. And we got the center started first in a little house on West 11th Street. And that started out just with a nursery. And then the next thing was to start something for older children. And I got the word out that anyone who wanted to take up some kind of craft should come in. Well, I was just swamped with a bunch of kids there. And we got a number signed up with little boys doing craft work, tin work, and making bookends and things like that. And Rachel Schreiner, who was a very fine craft person and a very understanding woman, she taught all that down in the basement of that little house. And then we soon, of course, overflowed that place. The Hillel Foundation sent a group over for recreation, and I just can't remember all the various organizations that did come over there and carry on various programs. But then we found that we just had to have a bigger place, and Mr. Ray handled all of that. He's very good at publicity and organizing, and we got the Christian Center building put up. And then from there on, we could expand into various crafts. There were, as you know, there were several little rooms there in addition to the big room. And we had a mother's group, and we had a sewing group of girls, and we had a craft group. And Thornton Stone was in charge of activities for the boys, and he was a very fine leader. He'd been experienced as a Boy Scout leader. And I can't begin to remember the names of all the people that worked there, but I was with the Young Mothers Club for a while, and then I went on for the older mothers my age, and that was what I had there last.
Among the many people who remember the early years of the Christian Center is Janet Richardson, who took part in center activities as a child.
When I went, there were just 15 children, and it was in a house, just like a family house, and we had little throw rugs, and it was exciting to us because we had access to things that we didn't have at home. They would take us like to sorority houses, and they had Christmas parties for us, and take us out to eat to fine restaurants, and it was just like a family. When we were growing up, after we got out of the preschool, they had we could go there after school, and they had people, students and people who would train us in sewing, and the boys done woodworking. We had arts and craft. They even gave music lessons. Anything you wanted to learn, they would try to get somebody in there to teach the children how to do that. And the sewing, we had ladies with sewing machines that come, and it was all volunteer. They would cut it out with the pattern and show us how to sew it by hand. They'd sew it on the machine, and then we would rip our stitching out, and we had sew it by hand though, and then we got to keep it. And one time we got to enter it in the Fall Festival at Ellisville, and we won a blue ribbon. We was really excited about it. We had a nightgown we had made, and then we had they'd have dances for the kids, play music. At that time, you just had record players, but we had IU students that would come and work with the children and teach them how to dance and play ping pong and how to do all kinds of things.
The program grew and developed along with the neighborhood and the town.
I know the building where we're sitting now, where the building is now, it was a field. There used to be a cornfield up here. And when I was first married and the kids was little, we had a Young Mothers Club here, and we played baseball where this building sits now. The young mothers would bring our little kids, and we took turns, mothers sitting out watching the kids while the others played baseball. We was all real young, and we had a good time.
In 1950, a children's crusade was organized to raise funds for a new building. The drive kicked off with a donation of $4,000 by Dr. Fred Austin, the center's medical advisor. It ended with more than $44,000 raised from the community.
And we sold blocks, concrete blocks. They were miniature, for $1 a piece to build the building over here. And everybody in the community and all over Bloomington sold the concrete blocks. I wished I had kept mine. I don't know what ever happened to it, to build the building. And then we had a lot of volunteer work. And the volunteers is what makes Macon.
Volunteers from Monroe County keep United Ministries thriving. But through the years, people from outside the county and outside the country have helped too.
When I first came, the Brethren Volunteer was people who would come, churches would sponsor them, and they would come and volunteer their times for a year. And we would provide them a place to live and feed them their breakfast and lunch, and then they would give them like $3 a day for supper. And they could do their laundry here. A lot of times they had a washer and dryer. And they bring their laundry, but they'd do anything that had to be done. And they were here around the clock. Most of the time they were here around the clock. They worked in the classroom, they helped in the kitchen, they done maintenance work. Anything that needed to be done, they would do it. And we had lots of nice volunteers. They still come back. Some of them still come back from Holland. We had one came last year that still came back to the Christian Center to see what was happening. Yeah, it still stayed with them. They just, I remember in the daycare when I first volunteered in the daycare back in '70, and they were there at that time. It saved on harm teachers and things. They've done the work.
In addition to the volunteers, a small professional staff keeps the center running with skills ranging from administration to office work to counseling and cooking. Mrs. Richardson has gone from client to volunteer to staff.
I'm the cook here, and I have been here for 15 years. And before I came, my mother was the cook here. And it was really exciting when I came, and I found her recipes and her mixer and notes she'd made and how much food she'd cooked and what she'd prepared. It was really a neat thing to find. We cook 2 meals a day. We have and 2 snacks. We have snack at first, and then we have breakfast. We set up 2 groups. We had 32 in each group. And in the summertime, I have 3 groups, and so we feed them at the other building. And it's a big job. You're really busy getting all the food. We have right now probably, let's see, I have 60 children here, and I have 32 at the other building. So that's a lot to feed. And then we have hot lunches, and then we have snack in the evening. And it's just really busy. But we have home-cooked meals, and the kids just love the food. And they're always saying, they call me the good cooker. That's the way they explain me, the good cooker.
Children and their educations remain an important part of United Ministries today. Kindergarten teacher Corinne Neitzel explains how the United Ministries curriculum exposes children to the world and their parts in it.
One of the things that we've done in our classroom, and we start around the holidays because it makes it real easy, is we explore countries from around the world. And the holiday season lends itself real easily because our children are real familiar with how they celebrate a holiday, and they're also real interested in learning how other children from around the world spend their holidays. So we apply for pretend passports, and the kids open up checking accounts, and we take pretend trips around the world. We explored not only celebrations, but the food and dress and toys and games and housing of people from other communities around the world. And usually we introduce that whole concept of the global awareness by the children create their own community, and we usually begin every year, because every year when we start our kindergarten program, in a sense that's what we're doing, is we're starting a whole new classroom community. So it seems kind of natural in a way to open up the year talking about ourselves and our differences and community. So the kids, the first thing we do is early on is we explore ourselves and how we're different and our uniquenesses and how we're all alike, and then we actually build our own classroom community, and the children open up their own bank and their own grocery store and restaurant and gas stations and post office and newspaper, and it allows them to get an appreciation of how everybody in a community has to work together and cooperate. And that's a big component of our classroom, is learning cooperation and supportiveness of other people, and the whole cohesiveness of a community. And then from there, once we've talked about our community, then it makes it a little bit easier for them to understand the communities of others, and how that communities all over the world have developed the same way our classroom community did, and then it makes it easier to explore why those differences may occur. And then it doesn't seem like a freakish thing that people are different than you or have different celebrations, but it seems more natural and normal that of course we're all different because we've all gone through this process with the people around us. And mostly in the spirit of trying to teach the children about giving and reciprocating kindness and that kind of thing. We held a cookie sale to raise money to buy trees for the tree planting in Israel. I say mostly it was for those reasons. It also tied in real nicely with our unit on cultures and understanding diversity in the world. And we had Rabbi Friedman from Bloomington come and when we had taken a fantasy vacation to Israel, and one of the things she talked about was the planting of the trees in Israel, and so the children were familiar with that project. And when the opportunity came up for us to become involved in the actual tree planting, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to try and tie in not only our cultural study but also the act of giving and the joy that can come from reciprocating people's kindness and not just taking from others all the time.
The heart of United Ministries remains a committed group of religious people looking to help others. One of its newest supporters is the Reverend Lee Ames of New Unionville Baptist Church.
When I first came here, I wanted to be involved with a group of pastors in some type of organization that improved the quality of the community. I wanted to be involved, if not with some group of pastors, with some group that was ecumenical by nature, meaning that several churches and denominations focused their efforts, their resources, their manpower in helping improve the quality of the community. And I suspect that I was sitting in this chair at this desk and opened up Macam and saw, hey, here's an organization that does what is in my heart that I really want to do. I've got to find out more about them. And I put the newsletter, I do remember posting a newsletter at some point in time on the bulletin board out there and putting a big look in red and putting the arrow down. Here's a place where we can use some mission money to help out locally. Wow, I was real impressed that Monroe County United Ministries has a daycare that helps kids who are poor. Then this wonderful fellow by the name of Bob Porter, who is a member of our church and I think is on the board or the board of directors at Monroe County United Ministries, pulled me over one day and said, Lee, I need to talk to you about Macam. Macam? Oh, Monroe County United Ministries. Lee, get with the program. And he started telling me how that program helped him as a boy. And how he has seen many times how poor people who were just beat down because of their lack of education or their inability to break out of that poverty cycle were helped by Macam. When I started really finding out that Macam does what I think the church should be doing, and therefore the church should be and can be supporting Macam, I called over to Macam and I made a contact with this really neat lady named Robin Jackson. And Robin volunteered to come out to our church and say a few words about the ministries and the outreach and the funding and the projects that Macam is a part of. And I welcomed that. And so she came and we had a missions emphasis day that day, as I recall. In the morning worship service, we asked everybody to bring as much food as they could possibly carry, canned food, non-perishable stuff, bring it into the church, and we'd make a big pile of food, and all of it we would give to Monroe County United Ministries. And we also asked that everybody bring all the pennies that they had. And if they would take all those pennies and put them in whatever containers they could, then we would convert that into dollar bills and give that to Macam. Well, it was a truckload of food. The church that morning had 117 people in worship service, which was a pretty good crowd then. And they just brought lots of food. And the pennies were incredible. There was $130-some in pennies. It was like a wheelbarrow full of pennies. Those were small efforts. You know, anybody can reach into their cabinet and pull out a few cans of food and give it. But when 117 people do it, it becomes a mountain of food. And when 170 people bring all the pennies that they have in drawers and jars, it becomes enough money to help a family eat for 2 weeks. That was our first contact that I remember with Monroe County United Ministries in a church-wide sense. Since then, we've had a few contacts. One of our Sunday school classes decided to take a special project to buy a lawnmower so they could mow the grass at Monroe County United Ministries. There were some volunteers to do that, but there wasn't machinery. A few weeks after that, a fellow called me at the office and said, "Lee, does the church need any furniture?" It's like, well, I don't think so. Why? He said, well, I'm closing this business. And rather than trying to sell all of the office furniture and all the furnishings of our offices, I would like to give it away. Who can I give it to that'll take it? Give me the key to your warehouse, I said. We rented a truck, and we hauled all that stuff out of there. Called Monroe County United Ministries. Can you guys use this stuff? Yes! Desperately, yes! And there was a lot of office stuff that Monroe County United Ministries needed to do their job. Needed to process the needs of the community that come in there. And so we were able to be involved in that, in the physical move of that type of merchandise.
And the largest service component for United Ministries today is its Emergency Services Program. It offers emergency food, clothing, shelter, and small grants for people in crisis or waiting to get ongoing help. It still relies on the community for support.
And the more that our church does with Monroe County United Ministries, the more I find there are needs. The needs just seem to be ever growing and expanding. A few weeks ago, we set up a tent at the city farmers market on a Saturday for Monroe County United Ministries. It was a real easy thing. We got there early in the morning, we set up this tent and brought some tables and set them out, and we sold Amish baked goods. And they were supplied to us, and we just sold them for the price that they bring. And all the food was bought but just a few little bags of things. And everybody that came to that booth to buy food said, "This is for Monroe County United Ministries, here's an extra $1. Or, "Thank God you're here and y'all are doing something, way to go." The community response was fantastic. And the people from our church who worked that day to man that booth, to collect the monies and to set up the tent and take it down, they left there feeling like they had done something good. I would encourage every church in Bloomington area, go over to Monroe County United Ministries and do a tour. Take a look, but most importantly, listen. Listen to what's going on over there. It will surprise you. There is a lot of ministry by surprisingly just a few people. I don't know what the ratio is. You probably have a 40-to-1 ratio of people receiving help to people who are actually distributing help. That's something that really hit home to me on the night of our visit. It was a special weekend in the life of our church. It was a missions emphasis weekend, and we flew this incredible musician named Rod Horner in from Washington, D.C. to come and help us for publicity and entertainment for this missions weekend. And at the end of the weekend on Sunday night, we went by to tour the facility of Monroe County United Ministries. I had been through there previously on a privately conducted tour and thought I really knew what was going on there. But the group setting was a high impact to my congregation and to me as well. I watched their faces as they listened and heard the facts of how many hungry people there are in Bloomington and in the surrounding area. I watched their faces and their eyes just tighten up and their mouths turn down. Like, I can't believe there are that many needs in town. You mean people come in here and get that much food? People have those kind of needs? And you're doing all of that in this little building? Wow. They were knocked off their socks. And I was too, to watch their heartfelt response to that. And basically it was a very simple little tour. We walked through the rooms. This is what this room does, and this is what the people in this room do. And we just walked around the facility. Monroe County United Ministries is doing what every one of us is supposed to be doing, and that's looking through clear eyes at the poverty that's in our community and doing something about it. Now, the need is there, and none of us likes the fact that it is there, but it is there. And we've got to feed people and help people and train people how to handle their money better. Well, that's what Monroe County United Ministries does.